$790,000 of limited tax refunding bonds. What that is it's a refunding of maintenance tax notes that we sold before in the past. We did those in 2010, and I believe they were for, was it field improvements?
Well, and some other things.
Okay, multiple purposes.
Right.
Okay. So whenever we refinance maintenance tax notes, they're called limited tax refunding bonds, and that's what we did, $790,000 in limited tax refunding bonds. We did that because the next two issues, they're new debt to the district, and we wanted to make it so that you could afford the payments or make them as affordable as possible. So we refinanced the 2010 bonds, and we did stretch those out a little bit. We changed the payment structure some, mostly because the time warrants have to be paid off within 5 years from the time that you issue. So we've got $500,000, and it pays off very quickly. So if we were not to do the refinancing of those maintenance tax notes, you would see an increase in your payment next year of $130,000 or $140,000, and I just don't think that was workable. So the $458,000 maintenance tax notes will be used, as Dr. Moore discussed earlier, for repairs, renovations of existing facilities, equipment purchases for the new facility, the dome facility. The time warrants can be used for any construction type purpose, construction of new space. So any of the things that are not done in that facility that still need to be built can be built with those dollars. We're selling today. The proceeds available May 23rd. So after tonight, all the documentation goes to the Attorney General's office. Funds available May 23rd. You can see the interest rates that we got. Talked with a number of very strong bidders. We've got a group that we, probably the same 4 or 5 we talk with every time, because these are the most aggressive in the state. That refunding, they came at 2.23%. The maintenance tax notes 2.9%. The time warrants 1.5%, 1.51%, and that's all based on the life of the borrowing. So the longer it takes for you to repay, the longer out the repayment is, the higher the interest rate. And this purchaser is Compass Bank. Compass Bank does a lot of municipal lending, and they're very strong. And then the details on that begin on page 3. I've got this is if you were to do nothing else, and this doesn't take into account any of the bus leases or bus financing, this is what your payments would look like, especially starting in 2014. This 2013 is just a partial year, but 2014 and thereon, you can see your payments are $196,000, $198,000.
It says it is right now.
You do nothing else, correct? So then, on the next page, this is the structure that we put together.
Before you move on, I don't remember, what was the interest rate on those?
On the ones that we refinanced,
Right.
on average 4.5%,
So
4.6%.
we actually cut money off of what we had to pay, $17,000, $18,000?
We have a lower interest rate. If we had kept the same term, we would have been able to save some money because we did come in at a lot lower interest rate, but we extended the payment some.
Right, but I mean, if you take
So-
the same thing and swapped it out from 4 to 2 or whatever.
You would have saved a lot of money, but since we stretched it out a little, you actually pay a little bit extra in interest, about $30,000. Because we went from a payment term
3 or 5.
of 2019 to 2023.
4 years.
And then we took a lot of, you can see in the years 24, I'm on page 4, the column that says refunding of MTN, that's the limited tax refunding bond. You can see in the years 14, 15, 16, 17, those are interest only. So we took all of that principal and we put it out in longer years so that we could fit in the issue next to it, the time warrants.
By the way, they all got this page too.
Okay.
I did this because I wanted to show the board, because the question would be, after all the hoopla, the next payment we have is $36,000 to include what we're doing in that. Now, if the other deal goes through, I guess then we knock off 24 off that. So actually what you're doing in that would be a total off the budget of $12,000.
So for purpose of analysis, if you remember in 14, we were at around 196,000. Well, in 2014, you'd be at 233,000, an increase of about $37,000. And that holds fairly constant for the next, I'll say,
6 years.
6 years. That increase of $37,000. And then we have a decrease in the payment, drops down by 65, 67, almost $70,000 in the year 2020. And then that decline starts to taper off out to the year 2025. So our objective was to make sure that this was affordable. Obviously, we don't refinance things unless we just have, and stretch them out, unless we have to make things affordable. Like I said, if we'd not had that sort of restructuring, the total increase in your payment would have been more like, $140,000, $150,000 instead of $30,000. And then, I don't think that anybody would have recommended that. Just not affordable. Any questions about how this put together?
On the $740,000 bond we have right now, I notice in the paperwork it increases to $790,000. It increases it by $50,000, and it lengthens the term to by 10 years. Is that, I'm sorry, that's not correct. It increases the term by 7 years. Is that right?
It goes from 2019 to 2023. So it's an extra
4 years. We
extra
pay
4 years.
$50,000 more. We're obligated for $50,000 more for 4 more years.
And the total payment increases by $34,000 because it's more money, but at a lower interest rate. And I've got the cost of doing the financing on the next page, and that's a big part of why there's a difference between $740,000 and $790,000.
Page what, please?
Page 5. So I've got the costs per issue broken out, the maintenance tax notes, the refunding bonds, and the time warrants. I had budgeted higher amounts for these various amounts, especially for the refunding bonds, because as a refunding is more complicated, there's more opportunity for miscellaneous things to pop up. So we initially had that budgeted at over $40,000, came in at 32. So we'll have a little bit of a difference there. That'll go into a fund to help repay the debt. We basically put it into the debt service fund. That difference between 40 and 32,650.
Any other questions?
Dr. Moore, remind me again why we want to have a $500,000, additional $500,000 indebtedness, another $450,000 indebtedness, in addition to what we already have.
2 things. One is the in-kind for the dome didn't present itself as it was in the beginning. The other part is put in because the deals that the people we're working with want more time to give us money. They don't want to give it to us in 1 year. Some of them want to go out 10 years. So we can't finish this thing without moving like we're doing here. Because we don't want to build it into our budget and handicap us, because at least the worst thing we're going to do is mess with our budget, because basically what we're going to be trying to do this year is increase our salaries in this district. And so we can't. In other words, you're caught in a rock and a hard place here is what I am, or I felt like I am, or feel like I am. Does that make any sense? Okay, I'll go to it a little deeper. Say if a company's gonna buy the floor, and they're gonna pay the floor, and they want 10 years to pay it. You gotta get the money from somewhere, unless we wait 10 years to finish the project. It could probably be taken out of the school's money all at one time, but we fought too hard to get to where we're at this time, and then we want to level that out, because if the state does give us any extra, then we know that our teachers need a raise. It's not exactly a raise. We need to get them back to where we had them, because we had to stop them for 2 years. And to me, that's very important. So that's the reason why when I gave him instructions,